I think it's totally exciting. I'm most grateful to animation for that, and that's what inspires me a lot. I think it's great. Oh, thank you. Seriously, it totally made life. It made life, and just in the last like 5 years of doing it, it's made life so much more interesting and entertaining. Because I can be having a bad day, but you know, if I see somebody, if I'm talking to somebody, maybe at the waitress or something, and I notice that every time she talks, and when she pulls her upper lip down, because maybe there's not enough space there, like she'll bring her upper lip down, and the tip of her nose will like, and I'll be like, hey, you know, it's suddenly like, you know, that's made me feel better, and it's like, it's great. That kind of stuff goes by constantly, and we never take note of it.
So, in this class, we're going to be teaching you how to take just a simple walk, like that simple walk. Can you see me right there? Yeah. We're going to take, you know, we're going to show you how to take a simple walk and turn it into a walk with personality. And yeah, I hope you have fun. Just basically be creative with walks. Wait, yeah. Be creative because you can really say a lot about people and personality and attitude and the mood of the character, what he's feeling. Hi, hey Johnny. So yeah, it's really important. So I hope you have fun because we are having a blast filming this class, and walking is fun. I'm gonna start walking right now. Okay. All right. When the real surrender.
So in this class we're going to be talking about different kinds of walks. More walks with character, with personality.
Walks are really indicative of personality. You can really just watching people, you know, outside, the way that they walk, the way, you know, a heavy person walks from a light person, a big person from a small person, physical characteristics, and then personalities. And it's interesting to look at people's personalities and how they walk, and then moods as well. You know, it's all in your walk.
Do a walk cycle, but when I see the walk cycle, I want your animation to tell me more about, tell me a little bit more information than the fact that this guy is walking from here to here.
Walks are so important though because they define who a character is. Everybody, you know, you go out in the street, not everybody walks obviously, but those who are blessed enough and where we all could walk, then you're looking around, and that's where I'm saying you go to an airport, and it's amazing. You look at people and their personality, their mood, their total disposition is coming through in a walk. You know, are they hurting? Are they tired? Are they uptight? Now, all this can be conveyed through a walk. It's one thing, and again, going to a computer, it's like, oh, making it move. Look at, arms are going opposed to the legs. Hey, it's a walk. Yeah, it's moving like a walk, but is it walking? Does it have the weight of, if your character is obese, does it feel like an obese person? Is it kind of like painful with every step? Does it kind of have this secondary jiggle to him or something? Or is it somebody just kind of wired up on too much caffeine and woohoo, and, you know, double time? So much can come through a walk. So it's a tough thing to nail, but it's a lot of fun to experiment with walks.
Just by the way a character is walking, you can even see the intention behind the walk. The intention, the internal motivation of the character. If I'm just totally like, I don't care about anything, I don't want anything, you know, I can just be walking like, you know. Now if I want something, you know, I could totally be walking like this.
If you notice all these people walking, they all have like a different personality on their walks. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you're animating a walk cycle.
It's a good way to get started. That's how I start every character, is to try to do a walk cycle.
For example, Charlie Chaplin. One of the main things that you always remember about Charlie Chaplin, and it's, you know, that's just the way he's walking, you know, and it just sticks in your head, and it's timeless too.
By doing animation tests is the best way to know a character. You know, the first thing, you know, doing a walk cycle is always like, it's always a good thing to like take a character and do a walk cycle at them, just to like, you know, not that that's something you're going to put in your portfolio, but it helps to get you to know just the weight shifts and the stride lengths and things like that. It's always, you know, that's the first opportunity to kind of define the attitude and the, you know, and the motion characteristics of the characters.
So just by looking at the character, it's actually already telling us who this character is, the personality. It's also telling us the physicality of the character. How heavy is this character? How heavy are the steps he's taking? How light is the character? How bouncy? The proportions of this character. Is this character huge or this character tiny? That's also going to be said on the way this character walks. You know, if I'm 4 buildings high, 150 feet tall, I'm not going to be taking steps like this, like you know, instead I would be taking like steps like
If your character is like Sullivan in Monsters, you know, he's a big guy, and he's going to walk differently than Mike. And I think it says a lot about his character in the way that he walks. And there are a lot of people like that, you know, in the way that they walk, it can really be explanatory of their character and give you insight into their character.
So it's telling us the proportions, it's telling us the size of the character, personality, attitude, mood. It's also telling us the mood of the character. How is this character feeling? Is he feeling bummed? You don't only have the physicality of the character that you have to pay attention, but you also have to like pay attention to the way this character is feeling, to the personality of the character, to the mood of the character, just a lot of things. So in the book Illusion of Life, Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, when talking about walks with character or walks in general, they say that there should be some reason behind a walk, some reason why we walk in a certain way or not. And basically that's what we animate, the actual reason, because otherwise it's just, all we have is just a flat walk, a walk that is emotionless, that has no attitude nor anything.
Often a walk is one of the first things I'll do to study a character. When I'm creating a character, it's like create their walk. And that should tell a little bit about the personality. It shouldn't just be a walk.
Basically taking the techniques that we learned from Bobby's class, we're going to start exploring characters and exploring motivations and personalities and attitudes and moods and in general acting, and put it into the actual walk and see what we get.
And I think the hardest thing is a walk with acting on top of it. walk, not only just a plain walk, but a walk with an attitude, whether it's an emotion or not.
For example, if you are going to do a walk for a short film, it really helps to like figure out at what point in the story is this walk going to take place. That already starts getting you thinking about the progression. Is this the very first time that we see this character?
You know, the function of that shot is that the character needs to go from, you know, over by the dresser to over by the door, you know, and it's easy. And they just walk, and there you go. Your shot's done. It's in the film. That's what needed to be communicated. Well, yeah, that worked, but is it as interesting as it could have been? And is it as entertaining as it could have been?
So after we figured out where this walk is actually going to take place in the story, if you're working on a short film, it's important to start thinking about the physical attributes of this character, the weight of the character. It's nice to know the weight and the dimensions of the character. Is this a huge character? Is this a tiny little character? Does he weigh a lot? Or is he very bouncy and weighs nothing? Is this character have any kind of physical attribute that might affect the walk? I mean, does this character limp? Is this character only has one leg, for example, and the other leg is like a stick? You know, because that's definitely going to affect the way this character is walking.
When someone has a limp, the timing is off between the good and the bad. Body's not dumb. It's not going to cause pain on itself. So if you have a painful foot or a painful knee, painful hip, the body wants to minimize the pain. As a result of the pain, you have a limp, and the limp is caused because you have different standing times, and you stand less on the painful time. So you step out long with the painful, but because it's painful, you can't swing out totally with the non-painful, so you end up having a shorter step with the non-painful.
Well, based on this character's anatomy, how would they walk? Well, you know, Solo had a long body and short legs, so that's going to mean something. But he's also huge, he's heavy. So that means something else. And, you know, he's a nice guy, you know, but he's kind of hunched over at the shoulders as well. So all of that stuff combined can be incorporated into his walk.
Like I like those walks where you kind of know how they're feeling at the moment. You know what I mean? Like there's just, I don't know, maybe it's on the face, maybe I can respond more to the face, but I like those where the guy's thinking he's worried, or like more character walks, the guy's nervous so he walks faster. I don't know.
As an audience, like, I want to know how the character is feeling so that I can relate to him. And starting on a walk and starting on a basic walk, we are able to starting to tell the audience a lot of these things.
You could definitely get in there, and in that gait, maybe they trip up a little bit, or they, you know, it could be adding something, or it could just be like changing the gait. Maybe they have a little half step in there or something, or a couple of steps are a little faster than the other, and you have to throw reason in there. You can't just do it haphazardly for no reason. You have to think it through.
So there's a few characters from a few films that are really going to be huge for you guys to study. This is before you guys even get into doing a walk. I would love it if you guys, after this class, you guys get to study some of these movies. So let's go ahead and let's start thinking how to approach animating a walk with characters. Pretty much every single principle can be applied to a walk. You have for once the timing of the walk. You have a squash and stretch on a walk. Start thinking about squash and stretch not only as a change in volume, but also, for example, the spine. Stretching to the spine, totally bending. That would be like a combination of a squash and stretch and overlap. So you have that principle as well on the walk. So you have like arcs.
So one of the first things you start with, I mean, besides the bouncing ball, but you start with the bouncing ball, and the first thing you start with the character is the walk. So you think it'd be one of those things that you just master early on, it's just hard though. It's everything, you have to consider weight and, I mean, everything, all the principles are in the walk. Weight and arcs and slow in.
Let's take a really simple walk. There's no animation on the arms, there's no animation on the spine or on the head, let's just take a simple like volley. It starts out with the keys, the contact keys. This is also explained on the Richard Williams book, contact keys. And then we start kind of working from that. So we can have the contact keys, and now on a regular walk, on a vanilla walk or just a plain walk, you have like, the passing position. Boom, boom. So we have our keys, and now let's start playing with the breakdowns. So like from here, the passing position will be here. How about if we make the passing position down? How about if we start playing or up or even higher? So we'll have something like this. That's already giving us some personality. Or let's go the other way around, where like we can do the passing position higher. So we can have like the walk. The keys don't change. It's what we are doing in between the keys, what we are kind of like changing a little bit. So in there, we still have our keys, boom, but then in the middle, we are breaking it up and we're doing a little bit of a swing to the side. When animating the walk, it's important to have your keys and breakdowns. And once you have those ones, you have something great to start working with, because now you can actually work on the timing and work on the spacing. So all the things that you did on your keys and breakdowns, you can actually start really refining your character and all the characteristics about your character through the timing and the spacing. You have your keys and your breakdowns, now let's start playing with the timing, and let's make the timing of those steps really, really slow, and let's see what it gives us, That's already giving us some type of mood on that character, almost as if he's being quiet, as if he doesn't want to make any steps, as if he's being sneaky, That's only playing with the timing of the hips and the legs. In there, you can start working on the pose. For example, let's say that I want to animate the arms, or I want to have like a really interesting pose, but still with the same foundation going on the hips and the legs. That's already telling us a lot. Now let's take, the same walk on volley and the legs from the standard walk, and then let's start playing with the timing, and let's make that timing, instead of slow, let's make it really fast. If we just look at the hips and what the legs are doing, and everything else remains the same. You have your contact, you're a little bit of up and down, for taking the weight and all those things. But all we're playing with is just the timing, and all we're playing with are the key poses and breakdown poses. But then we're just taking the timing and making it really, really short and adding more steps. let's say that I want to take that walk that I just did, and all of a sudden I want the feet to, instead of having this spacing, boom, I want the feet to have this spacing while still going really fast. Something that I really want to start bringing up is the importance of the up and down within the character, because it really dictates the emotion of the character. It's not necessary that you always have this kind of move, It's important that we exaggerate these walks a little bit, because exaggeration is basically taking something from real life and kind of like making a caricature of it.
That's fine. Now do a canter. I'm happy about the whole thing. The way that you walk, the way that you talk. That's enough of that.
If the character is very high, you can even have like double ups and downs. So you have like your keys, boom. In between the first key and the breakdown, and in between the breakdown and the second key, you can have 2 downs. So then you have something like this. That's what they call a double bounce walk. When you start having like a character, it's good, for me at least, I try to start thinking about a clear, defined pose that right away, right when I look at the character, is already telling me how the character is thinking. But it's important that we have like a clear attitude or a clear feeling showing within the character, because that, to me, that's the important part. That's the only part that I care. If I'm watching a character, I want to know how this character is feeling. If the character is totally down, I still have my contact positions, but the starting pose is a little more different. In this one, I'm more like this. And then I still have our contact position, but I can do my passing position kind of. And that's still keeping keys and adding something on the breakdown. If the character is very, like, you can have it kind of going like, you can have like the keys like this, starting like this, the other key like this, and then have the passing position higher, have the breakdown. It would be like, certain walks are just so recognizable. You can really remember who these walks are. A walk that has no up and down on the hips. It's almost like a straight line of the hips moving, and then we just bend the character a little like that, have the head up a little bit, and put the hands here, bend the knees a little bit so that the knees are always walking, and you have already like Groucho Marx type of walk, maybe not.
With the hip, there's a gait pattern we call the supermodel, or the Mae West gait pattern, where you come in and on the stance or the standing leg, the hip kind of falls out, and supermodel gait pattern where they're looking all chic and knocking their hip out to the side.
If this is just a regular walk and I'm just going like this, the hips are doing this in a very subtle way. Sometimes you can see it, other times you cannot see it. It depends on the design of your character, it depends on the timing of your character. Sometimes you can see some of this, but other times you cannot. So with personality walks, it's great to exaggerate a lot of these things, and it's something that you guys shouldn't be afraid of. For example, it's not the same to do like the standard, kind of subtle twist, as opposed to really push it and just go like You know, that's already giving me a lot of personality. You know, same thing with this kind of motion on the hips. If I want this kind of action, what I usually do is I can actually move the hip front or back, you know, and actually that even, you know, that gives me actually some personality too, you know. It's not the same thing to have like a walk cycle like this than to have a walk cycle with the hips forward, just totally like.
Hey, 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 hey,
Or if I have the character go like this. The arms don't always have to be swinging, you know. It doesn't always have to be like, you know, on a standard walk, yeah, on most walks, yeah, but it's not something that always has to be like that. On the arms, it could totally be something like this, something like, you know, where the character is walking, but it's not moving the arms. I mean, how much of an impact could it be to have a character just like this? I'm not moving the arms. There is none of this. Instead, because of the acting I wanted to give it to the character, I chose the arms to be straight and just add a little bit like. Same thing with the legs. The legs don't always have to be key, and then the passing position, boom. You know, it doesn't always have to be that way. You can start experimenting and see what you get. If instead of this passing position, you have the leg going boom, you know, then you have a total like. Definitely keep focus on what you guys can do with these guys, both feet and the hips. Where the feet are pointing and where the knees are. Where the knees are pointing. Are they pointing that way? Are they pointing that way? Play with those because you get a lot of personality by playing with where the feet are pointing, even how the feet are rotated.
In my experience, I see more larger people have a toe out gait pattern where the toes are pointed out more, and so it's almost like what would you say, duck walk in essence. The toes are pointed out, and typically in that body type, it's called an endomorphic body type, you have weakness in the hips. In essence, you're waddling. You see kind of a lateral shift side to side as the toes are pointed out. So in my experience, I would think that you're going to see more of the toes are pointed out more in a larger person. You're going to have potentially more of a center of gravity over the stance foot with each step, and a more inability to really bend and be flexible. So it's going to be a little bit stiffer. You're not going to see as much fluidity in the motion.
Like how am I rotating the feet to the side? You know, as opposed to like, I can do like.
No one walks the same. I didn't walk down the street and just take a look at anyone walking down the street, and you'll just notice something you probably didn't notice before about the way someone walks, or the way they their feet out. I don't know. But I was running the other day, and as I was walking back, there's this guy that was walking up the hill, like towards me, and it's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I don't know. It's like his feet were out like this, and the way he was stepping, but just getting that, just be able to get that into your animation, like just to make each thing individual rather than, yeah.
Try to stay away from default type of poses, always, with all your characters, because then you're not really taking advantage of how much life you can provide the pose. For example, I can have one feet, totally straight, but then the other feet, totally to the side. And then you have something like that.
So forward, toes up, knee straight, shock absorbing, then it goes back to straight so that you can be stable to propel yourself off. When you have a stiff ankle, you're not going to see that. You're going to probably see normal toes up, but as you come through, because it's painful, you're not going to see that other leg swing through normally, or nor will you see you roll off normally. It's going to come and look more like this. You come down, and it's going to be picking up. You're not going to see a nice roll off the toe.
If you have your character taking a step, you have your push key, of the feet pushing, and then you have this kind of rotation going on in the feet, boom, and then it hits the key, and then it takes the weight. We can start experimenting about other things. For example, like, in Jurassic Park, what the big T-Rex wasn't rotating and putting the feet like that. What did the T-Rex do? The T-Rex would just go like boom, boom, boom. Almost as hitting with the front to take the weight, like. So it's just important for you guys to know that not everything has to be this way. It works in most cases, but it's great to start experimenting with those kinds of things. So like if I just want that kind of rotation, that's already giving me some kind of personality.
Every individual is an individual and is unique, and based on their body type, their age, their sex, they're going to have a different, we call character gait. Let's say like an athlete, a basketball player, really rides up on the toes and has more of an up and down type of movement pattern where, in the movies, someone that's really depicting an ethnicity type, really is kind of getting a lot of shoulder sway, side-to-side movement, or the supermodel gait. You're just the hip, side, and just, there's so many different types of gait, and it is unique to an individual.
Character, for example, that is drunk, that are always trying to figure out the balance, and so like the weight is always shifting, and it's not in control with the legs. So like the body is always shifting, and the legs are the ones that are always catching up to like what the hips are doing. So you have a character walking, and that character will be kind of like. A character that is confident, a character that is feeling secure of himself or herself, is also going to have more determined moves than a character that is very insecure. So it's good to start thinking about these things. On one you have like very strong, determined poses that are very defining that confidence. And on the other one, it's more like there's nothing defined. Everything is very scary. So, for example, some ideas for walks. If we have a character sad, we can start brainstorming. And it's good to brainstorm a lot when doing anything before even getting into the computer. What Bobby was saying is really important to have video reference. And while you are getting ideas, it's also really important to brainstorm ideas. So if you have a sad character, the most cliche that you have a character sad, it would be like, just like, the line of action more down, and maybe the character is kind of like really slow, But, it's important to brainstorm so that like we're like, okay, what other ways can I show a character being sad? So, for example, you can have a character kind of like the other way around and have it go kind of like this, like. No. You can start getting creative, so you can think of other ways, like and all these things are going to affect the pose of the character. The character is thoughtful. The very first thing that I would think of would be like something like this, But then I start thinking about other things, how would a character be thinking? So. Definitely not like this. Maybe a character that is thoughtful could be like really always looking into the ground and just be like.
Depends on the character, if it's a cocky walk or a swagger or a sad walk. But I mean, it's observation,
So the things to remember on this class are, first of all, to know exactly what kind of walk you want to do. The personality, the mood, how the character is feeling. So it's important that you do some research. You film yourself, you pay attention to people, you look at movies, you take notes, you do thumbnails. The important thing is that you gather as much information about this walk that you are about to animate, because then that's going to make things a lot easier, as opposed to like if you just jump on the computer and you don't even know what kind of walk you're going to do, and you just play with curves, you just play with poses and then just throw stuff around that is not, it doesn't feel together, it doesn't feel like things are for a reason. Then just get on the computer and start roughing things out, get your keys, breakdowns, start playing with the timing and the spacing, those are the key elements that are going to help you get almost there, and once you get that, I mean, you can clean it, you can like polish the shot and everything, but the important thing is you have it there, and that you have a solid foundation of what your walk is going to look like. And then, I mean, the great thing about walks is that it's really starting to hit some things about acting. How do you want your audience to feel about this character? You want your audience to laugh if the character is sad, and you want people to feel sad for the character by the way it's walking. And definitely don't be afraid of filming yourself, and don't be afraid of doing the super wackiest walk or as well as a very, very subtle walk. The important thing is that you let out what you want the character to be.